Dudes to Dads is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. Alan, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Actually, just got done with a meetup group that we have, our Tuesday meetup groups.
Yeah, the impetus for the show. Really.
And just some awesome discussions, some great honesty, some new people, and just covering topics that are near and dear to our hearts.
Everyone who left as I was walking in seemed to be really happy about the discussion that happened.
No, for those of you in the San Diego area, we have a local meetup called Dudes to Dads as well. And it's where we have a chance to discuss things in real life. Yeah. Not through the internet, or it's actually just person to person. It's really great to get together and just have a place to talk about that. And we, it's great to hear the experiences, especially like some of the new people and like, whoa, I didn't realize everybody experiences this stuff, So it's really cool. It's really a fun experience to do that. And when you have that deep discussion, you feel like people get something out of it. It's great.
For sure.
And I learn something every session.
That's awesome. Yeah. You get teach and lead and learn. That's really
absolutely.
great.
It's why we do this. So today's topic, episode 85. Yeah. If you can believe it.
Yeah. We're all the way
You know
up
what
there.
I said a couple episodes ago? I was like, almost a year and a half. This is almost 2 years.
Yeah, I didn't think
of 52 weeks in a year, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a little over a year and a half we've been doing it.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Today's topic, why kids lie.
Okay.
And how to deal with kids lying.
You know, it's funny. I just saw a Louis C.K. comedy thing, and he talked about kids lying because it's such a big deal to kids. Yeah. You know, that when you get caught in a lie, the reason why they lie is because if you do something bad, it's the big thing to them. You're this giant ogre over them, towering over them, telling them that they're wrong.
Absolutely.
So they just lie.
No, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to break it down based on some age groups. Mm-hmm. So, there's kind of reasons why children lie, and it differs based on your age. Okay. And then maybe just like some tips on how to kind of encourage honesty, and to encourage your children to tell the truth and how to do that. So the first is just, why do kids lie? Well, that's why I said it just for all different reasons. It's really, really important how we handle it. Yeah. But the first thing is, you can't take it personally. That's something where I think parents often, I'm including myself, is, a child may say something that's not truthful and you feel like they're doing it to you. Like it's a personal thing that they're trying to hide something from you or do something. And really the truth is at that age, it's not personal at all.
They're not thinking of you at all.
No, not at all. So certainly don't feel as if you are failing as a parent because your child is lying. And often that's sometimes the initial feeling. It's like, oh, wow, my child's just not telling the truth. Right. And it hurts. Yeah. It hurts to do that. So kids are going to lie. They're going to try to push boundaries, and it's totally normal for them to lie. So that's the good thing to keep in mind. It's totally a normal thing as a child develops. They may do it for attention, or they want to avoid something that's bad. And that often goes right into adulthood. I mean, people will lie to their spouse because they don't want whatever the repercussions could be. Yeah. So we learn at a very young age, hey, if you lie, you're going to get in trouble. Mm-hmm. Yet, it just makes us better liars.
Because if you tell the truth and the thing that will get you in trouble anyway, right? So if you lie and get away with it, you're taking a chance?
Well, no. So what we're going to teach is specifically, I'll tease it and say that's kind of what we're going to learn. Oh, okay. Is how do you handle that? When a child lies, how do you handle it? Right. As I mentioned in the beginning, the reasons that they lie varies based on age. So let's start with like a toddler or preschooler. This is, a child who's 2 to 4, starts talking, walking, doing all that stuff. They don't even understand where truth begins and ends. Yeah. So literally their brain is clueless. Right. Now, somebody will say, no, absolutely. And this is how I thought. Absolutely not. My son or daughter knew exactly what they were saying. They knew it. And the reality is they don't. Like their reality is a little unclear. They just don't know. Like their brain hasn't formed, especially to talk about a 2-year-old, hasn't formed to really understand the concept of lying. So, and I can even see this, how their brains, work differently, or I should say they're not developed. I recall my son asking the question often when we saw something on TV, asking, is that real?
Right.
Or is it not real? Like the brain didn't even understand what was real and not real. So lies at that age is pretty just completely unmeaningful.
Right.
Like there's just no you can't take anything with a grain of salt. They're gonna say something, like there's a book we always quote called I Saw It on Mulberry Street.
Okay.
And it's basically this, the kid sees something as he's walking home from school, but the more and more he gets into the story, it gets crazier and crazier and crazier. So we often, when something in our house like happens and it's like a total, you can tell they just made it up. It's like, oh, it must have happened on Mulberry Street.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's it's this idea that like, you start off with a very small story and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
So oftentimes, these young kids, like I said, they don't even know what they're talking about. When a child, maybe school age, a little bit bigger kids, so from ages 5 to 8, they will often lie about school and classes, homework, teachers, friends. One of the things it said was they often will lie because responsibilities are too high. Mm-hmm. They're too much for them. So let's say a little bit of stress.
Okay.
And so almost like there's like a pressure tank and there's too much pressure on them.
They're stimulated too much?
It could be stimulation. It could be overworked. It could be a lot of things where they just feel there's too much going on. And sometimes that can result in a lie. Okay. So still, they're not really understanding too much of the conceptual aspects of a lie.
So they make things up to kind of explain the world around them in some level.
That's a great way of explaining it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh. That's something that they are still learning how things work.
Sure.
And how the world functions.
Testing
so
things.
That is a perfect example of what you just said. And then we get to tweens. So these are ages 9 to 12.
Yeah.
And this is when the brain actually starts functioning.
When you really are lying.
Yeah. So probably the main reason is to avoid getting in trouble.
Yes.
So they know, hey, I wasn't supposed to do that, or, something outside, let's say they're playing or something at school. And as a result, they're like, well, I don't want to get in trouble, so I am going to tell a lie. And that's probably the most common thing that we learn. And why that happens is because when they do the thing that they lied about, we punish them.
For sure.
And that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the parenting techniques and the things like that, it's oftentimes children will get punished for things that, quite frankly, they shouldn't get punished for.
Gotcha. Okay.
Instead of it being a learning experience.
Right.
Perfect example, the child is trying to pour something on their glass, whatever, and it spills over but you weren't there.
Sure.
Like, and something happens and they'll say, no, I don't know what happened, because the parent in the past may have said, well, I can't believe you spilled it. Go up to your room, whatever. Mm-hmm. Instead of teaching the child that's a small example, but teaching the child the proper way to do it. Yeah. Or, the fact is we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times where even though the child knew what not to do, punishing them for that doesn't teach them.
Right.
They just know, okay, if I don't do that, I'm going to get in trouble. Mm-hmm. And in our brain, we think, well, then they did know the right way. They did know that, but they made the wrong decision.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're trying something new as kind of
or to be rebellious.
True. Yeah, which that happens as well. But it could be almost kind of an extension of what you said from the other age group right before this one, is that they're trying to test out the world and they're wondering why this is bad. Well, why pouring on this thing on the floor is bad? And then, I get it now. Yeah. It makes a mess and now I got to clean it up.
Right.
So I can get.
Yeah. Just doing things that they're not supposed to do. I mean, like it could be like, sneaking candy, or whatever it is. And like, they're not really thinking of the ramifications, or they're not thinking about what something could affect.
Yeah.
They're just kind of in the moment. I mean, kids are way more in the moment than we are.
Sure.
And so, they're not thinking often about the ramifications, or they just know, okay, that may not be right, but I'm certainly not going to tell about it because I don't want to get in trouble. So they get better at maintaining lies at this age. All of a sudden, they become a little bit more creative.
Right.
They get a little bit better at it.
Yeah.
Now, and all for the dads, like keep in mind, it's a very common thing.
Yeah.
This is not something where when your child is 8 or 9 years old and they're lying, that you're like, wow, my child is horrible, or I haven't been a good parent.
Right.
It's like, it's a very, very common thing. And so our job is like, okay, well, how do we handle it? So that's what we're going to talk about too. Because we want to get, that's the meat of it. It's like, how do we handle it when this happens? So, they're getting, like I said, they're maintaining the lies better. They're getting better at it. They're a little bit more sensitive to the repercussions. So they understand probably that the punishments are typically bigger.
Yep.
Because the things that they're doing are bigger. And they should, quote, know better. That's happening as well.
Yeah.
So, it's important to teach them where there are situations where being completely honest isn't polite. And so sometimes they get confused. And I'll give you an example. You're over at somebody's house, let's say as a family, and you do not like the food.
Oh, right. That's happened to all of us, I think, on some level. Yeah.
Like, so there are these nuances where you lie, and you say, well, okay, so you're not supposed to lie, but in this situation, you shouldn't say that the food is bad if you don't lie. I mean, so it's confusing.
Yeah.
So because we want them to be honest at all times.
Yeah, but we're not honest at all times as adults.
Correct. And we have another example of that as well. So it was interesting. Researchers, and I'll put a link to one of the articles. Researchers trace the effectiveness of punishment in 372 kids between the ages of 4 and 8, finding that children were less likely to tell the truth when threatened with punishment. So when threatened with punishment, less likely to tell the truth.
It's so funny.
And more likely to tell the truth when they thought it would please an adult.
Yes.
So what does that mean? Don't punish a child for telling a lie.
Right.
Don't punish them if they lie. That's the answer. So they are more inclined than the next time to tell the truth. Because they're not learning that the lie is going to result in punishment. Now, some people will say, well, then they'll just keep lying because they're never going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works.
Right.
It's kind of a fallacy in our brain of how we think that, like, instead of teaching them and saying, one of the things we try to do is, encouraging the child to tell the truth and saying, listen, if you tell the truth, you're not getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if that's a great wording to use.
Yeah, but I can get to where that's going because it's like you're making them more self-aware in a weird way by not punishing them. Because punishing them kind of takes the thing off of them and makes them guilty and puts them in this kind of circumstance that says, you shouldn't do this because I said so, versus saying, hey, you're lying.
Right.
What's going on with this? And then they're like, yeah. And then you kind of figure out why they're lying, what the real reason is behind it.
Yeah. And so right when that's happening, typically we serve a punishment.
Right.
Well, you shouldn't have lied to me. Go to your room. You're getting your iPad. Take it, whatever.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, well, listen, you're not getting in trouble for this.
Yeah.
What do we learn from this? What do we do next time?
Yeah.
What are we going to take from this and say, okay, how do I learn from this? And
it's showing them like, you don't need to lie.
Right.
It's okay. Things that happen.
Right. You're going to make mistakes. Totally.
Let's work at it together.
It's very hard conceptually as an adult.
No, I totally
to think about that because we are all conditioned to avoid the problems and not want to make waves and not want to disappoint and not want to do all that. So you have to really encourage your kids about telling the truth. Now, when a child does something that is really bad, let's say I remember the story in my family where my one of my sisters when she was young tore up the neighbor's flowers, tore them. She's like, no, I didn't do it. My mom knew exactly, and she said, well, okay, well, thank you for telling me, and then had them, talk to the neighbor, whatever, but she didn't get in trouble. She had to do a payback or it wasn't punishment per se. It was a learning experience. Right. It's like whether you then have to go plant the things or you have to go, and you use those experiences to help and coach them on how to learn effective behavior and appropriate behavior. That's the best thing that can happen. So that the next time something happens, they go, oh, you know what? I made a mistake, but I know I'm not going to get in trouble for that. Kind of and I'll go ahead and tell them. They're going to be more honest about it.
Well,
so here's a few ways to encourage honesty. First thing, calmly name the issue, but don't demand confessions. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of say like, hey, what's going on with this? Something like that. And never call your child a liar. That's a bad one. So you say, well, you're a liar because you're doing da-da-da-da. Or bring up the past. Say, well, remember the time that you did this? Bad idea as well.
Yeah. I find that doesn't work on me either. When
right.
Say, remember last year when this happened? I'm like, yeah, so what? I was evil then.
We were way past that.
Yeah, let's get back. Let's get to the present moment.
Yeah. It's like the elections.
Yeah, remember 4 years ago?
20 years ago shouldn't matter. Try to understand why your child is finding it hard to be honest. Mm-hmm. So that is something, why is that? So because they know that I get upset. Maybe I get angry very easily. There's obviously a reason why that's happening and why they are trying. It's really hard for them to be honest about it.
Yeah.
And going along with that, avoid the discipline, avoid pressure from that. So you're creating a loving environment of honesty and saying, okay, thank you for telling me. Here's, what do we need to do about this?
Right.
How do we fix this if it's something bad or whatever? So teach your child about why lying doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So that can be through a book like, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and just, they kept on doing it and nobody believed him. And then eventually, the wolf comes and he's screwed, our children got that. We read that and like, I think they understood that, but you still will catch them in these little things. And then that's it. And you don't want to punish them. You don't want them to feel horrible. You just want to say, hey, tell me what's going on and then try to find out, more information.
Right.
Respond with clear consequences. So this was, now I don't necessarily agree with this personally, but this was part of a list on a Super Nanny website.
Okay.
Maybe having them do something. So where I added this was instead of the consequence, because I think of the consequence as a punishment. Mm-hmm. I had sort of added making them do something extra to fix it. Or extra to help. So let's say in the scenario where they took money from you or a sibling or something like that and didn't talk about it. Well, so maybe that is doing something nice for them.
Yeah. And the consequence doesn't necessarily have to be a punishment. I mean, I feel like the consequence of you sticking a fork in an electric socket is getting
enough.
shocked.
Yeah.
It's not punishment. It's just natural laws.
Right. Yeah. And letting them know, this is what I had mentioned before, letting them know that honesty will get approval.
Yeah.
Like the honesty is preferred. That's what we like. That's what we do in our house. We are honest about it.
Yeah.
And just being open about that. And then the last thing is, of course, setting a good example. Mm-hmm. Monkey see, monkey do.
For sure.
So as an example, when somebody calls, although not many people use house phones anymore, but even your cell phone or whatever, and you're like, you don't answer, you're like, oh, I'm not here. Now, you don't think about it, but that's a small lie.
Yeah, it is.
And so your child learns and saying, oh, well, you're being dishonest.
Yeah.
Or let's say you're going to an amusement park and the child is 6 years old or 6 and under are free. And you're like, hey, you're 6, and they're really 7 or 8.
Yeah.
You're 6 because we're going to get in free. Yeah. Now, and you have to tell them because if the people ask, you have to collaborate, whatever.
Yeah. Collaborate.
Hey, I'm totally guilty of that. But that is teaching them the lie.
Yeah, true.
And so you have to weigh that. People are like, well, for $50 at Disneyland, I'm gonna lie about it. So, or $100.
You only lie when money's involved,
right? Yeah. So I mean, that's the hard part of these examples. I don't know. That'd be interesting in that situation where you're like, well, in this situation, we do lie. Like how do you? I don't even know how you explain that one.
Yes.
If it involves an amusement park,
maybe you should say you're 6 plus 2. Right. And mumble the 2. Yeah. You're not lying.
Well, and I think we've been questioned before, So, I mean, everyone's guilty of that.
Sure.
But it's not a good example. Yeah. So I at least have to say it. But yeah, so that's part of it. I mean, this was short and sweet. The idea is, kids are lying as part of their growth. Yep. It's something that they're going to go through. They're going to do it. I found that we experience some of that. It's a lot less now, because they learn and they're getting a little older. So, but it's part of life, And so you can sort of shape that in a positive way by acting correctly and doing that. And the same thing can happen probably with a spouse or a significant other. It's like, how you react to situations or when your significant other tells you something kind of determines if they're going to tell you again or not.
Sure.
And so when they tell you something and then you blow up or you get upset.
Yeah.
Why would I want to tell you again?
Exactly.
So that's the same thing with children.
It's funny. I used to have, exactly, like relationships where there was a lot of like arguing, and I'm like, what makes you think I want to be truthful to you anymore?
Right.
Because if this is what's going to be the consequences of us doing this.
No, I remember going out with a buddy of mine, and his girlfriend at the time, like I think she called or something, and he totally lied where he was. And I'm like, why would you? He goes, because I just don't want to deal with it right now. And I'm thinking, I'm like, that sucks.
I know.
And he goes, yeah, because she would totally get pissed off if she knew I was in a bar, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Well, one, either you need to have that discussion, and there's obviously a trust issue or whatever it is, but it's just, I couldn't imagine having to be in that situation.
I know. I never again. And I don't think I was really ever had that bad of a relationship, but like I've had circumstances that are similar.
But people don't think of that as bad. They're just like, well, I'm just trying to avoid the conflict.
And like, no, I don't want to feel like that anymore. Like,
yeah, no, it's not a good feeling. Yeah. So anyways, kids will lie. This is how we deal with it.
Yeah, it's just how they work out the world.
Yeah. How do people get in touch with us? If they have any examples.
Podcast at dudesToDads.com, I think would be a good area.
That's the email.
The email. We can also do on Twitter would be the Dudes to Dads, Facebook, dudesToDads.com. And then please leave some reviews on iTunes and Stitcher, both of which have the capability.
And subscribe.
And subscribe.
And then we also have our YouTube now. YouTube. And now I said 2019 we would get the videos up.
You were 2 years early.
I was 2 years early. Well, 2.5. Yeah. No, we've got some videos of the podcast now. Yeah. The sound isn't quite as good because we're using the feed from the different thing.
We're still working out the audio we had down, but the video we did not. So we're going to figure out how that works and make it a little bit.
Yeah, so subscribe to that if you want to hear or see the videos. Yeah. Actually see how all this excitement. We make this for audio, but we record it too.
Why not?
So with that, Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys next week.
See you next time.